art is the most judgmental profession / hobby that there is, in any way you want to put it, because you just get to put it on the plate and everybody else has to do what they will with it. I'm very fortunate to be in that position and with people around who, you know, share these same ideas and qualities.
All right. No, I gotta give him one more time. Not bad. Albert J, welcome.
What's poppin'? Are we live?
We're live.
We're live.
We're rolling.
God damn it.
We're rolling. My name is Cho. This is Albert J, and I'm with Indie River, and we're doing our first ever Indie River Spotlight. Don't know what to call this yet. Indie River Spotlight is it's gonna be for now. Sure.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We got Mezcal.
Yeah, we're sipping on some melted Mezcal. We had a little bit of technical difficulties, but it's still refreshing.
Shout out to Mijo, because that's the first time we drank that shit over in his
so
studio.
the reason why I picked Mezcal to have for Joey to sip on was
horrible memories that brings up.
what do you mean horrible memories? That was a good time.
Mm-hmm.
I brought a bottle of Mezcal to a podcast that we both went on when we were working on the Harvey tape.
Yes, that was about a year ago, and
That's almost exactly a year ago now at this point.
if you want to actually go into how it actually feels, that was like 25 years ago.
It really does feel like that long. I want to open it up with a question that I don't think we ever really got into. What was your start into music? Like, why did you start doing all this?
I think we did get into it. Actually, no, we never did.
We've touched on it.
We touched on it somewhat. So more or less about a decade ago, I got Baker acted, was what they call it down here. I had an attempt on my life, and you know, it was just me being a young man and kind of trying to find his way and not dealing with it very well. While I was in that facility and, you know, witnessing actual sick people, like people who, you know, needed help going to the restroom, like grown people, or people who just, you know, didn't know their name when they woke up. Like, I just started writing. It kind of went from there. I had a couple people up in DC who helped me when I moved up there after I was Baker acted. Shout out to Gino and KJ. I started doing music as a form of expression and not so much as a form of, you know, artistic endeavor or whatever, or trying to make it, or, you know, do shows or make all these music videos or whatever. I really just did it as a means of just expressing myself, because I didn't have any other real way, and I was having somewhat of an identity crisis because I didn't know how to be anything else but an athlete or a football star at that point. So I kind of I just needed a way to express myself, and that kind of blossomed it into it being a serious hobby, then into, you know, a passionate thing, and then here we are now.
No, as you were saying that, I do remember you speaking about some of it on kind of like some of our trips up to Newport Richie, doing shows up at the Verona and whatnot. How'd you end up in like that whole circle with all of them?
That was interesting, man. Like, I had just gotten back down to Florida from DC. I want to say around this time, like fall of 2010. You know, I had all these crazy plans and ambitions, and so I had a friend up in Newport Richie. Shout out to Megan Tanner, because she kind of like helped me get on my feet up there. She just offered me a room up there, and I went up to Newport Richie right off a little road. Got a job up at Pit Boss, and then kind of started to foster relationships up there as far as, you know, music and like-minded people. When I came back to Florida, that was kind of my starting point as far as just being in the area and the scene in general.
I think that's a good spot to be at. I mean, every time we've been out there, it's been...
Oh, it's always loving Newport Richie. Like, I'm never going to shit on that place too hard and everything, you know, although a lot of the bullshit that I kind of went through personally was there. But it's you know, the starting grounds for a lot of this music shit, and I still have a lot of respect and, you know, foster a lot of relationships that I, you know, gain up there. So shout out to Newport Richie and Pasco.
That was kind of like where the whole Focus era of your music came from.
Yeah, man. Focus was my I don't even call it alter ego. It's who I was. That was the TST days, the swag team days. That was my first rap group that I was in back in 2013. And Focus was an acronym for Forever on Course Until Successful.
So it wasn't fuck off because you suck.
Or fuck off because you're stupid, or you know, fuck off because you're shit. Like, I was on a lot of drugs back then, bro. Like
I didn't really
hardcore drugs.
I didn't get a good look at the the YR and the YR2 album covers until you sent them over to me recently, and I saw that it was Inside the Cross. It's just mad pill.
Yeah, man.
And it kind of shows the mindset that you were in and the headspace you were in
For
when
sure.
you were making those projects.
For sure, and not for nothing, that's kind of the headspace that I feel like everybody was in up there at that point in time. That was at least what I was exposed to. You know, not to shit on the area again, like, but you know, that area was synonymous with lots of pill use, like blues, Oxycontin. You know, in my particular case, I got hooked on the uppers and the amphetamines, the Molly and all that shit. You know, the Youth Religion series was kind of a personification of that, or just giving kind of the life to that. It's the essence of, you know, having really no religion, kind of living day by day and kind of being very present. You know, I feel like religion in just its natural context and words really refer to either future worries or past context, and not really living in the moment and stuff, and living in your human nature. And that's kind of what that was illustrating in that sense. And you kind of grow up out of that shit eventually too as well. So
do you still feel like you associate with any of that part of those like projects, any of that, like the whole focus past?
Never, not even close. I like the artistic aspect of it. I like the development, but I mean, anybody who's listened to it, you know, the discography going from beginning to end. I think what's interesting about myself, not even in an arrogant way, is that you get to see a very poignant transition and transformation. Like my mindset of where I was, you know, 7 years ago is worlds from where I am today. I don't really like adopt any of that stuff. I was in a very different headspace. I was in a much more desperate and hungry headspace just to, you know, find my place in the world in general, much less even in, you know, music. And I think that came through a lot in the lyrics and, you know, the subject matter within.
It's almost like, in some cases, your version of a coming of age story.
Somewhat, and that's kind of why Grow was like my coup de grace, if that makes any sense. Like Grow was the end of that whole section of my life and stuff, because as an individual, I feel like a lot of people have this problem, or not even a problem, it's just that transition, that they hold on to certain aspects of life that really stuck with them. Like from 2013 to 2015, man, like Jack, I told you about this the other day. I mean, I was doing nothing but doing drugs and just fucking. Like that's literally all it was. Like, excuse my language, but I was, for 2 years straight, I got to hang out with nothing and live with but nothing but coke dealers and rappers, and kind of live my life based off of that lifestyle. And anybody who's been in that kind of understands that. It's just so fast paced, everything is happening all at once. You have those long benders for, you know, 24 to even 48 hours, you know, like, you know about sleeping for 14 hours straight.
You told me about some of those days.
I mean,
you told me
like,
about days you would like go on a full-on bender and then work in the morning the next day.
Oh, for sure.
Do it all over again.
That was regular, man. Like, and that's, you know, you grow out of that shit, and then you kind of, it teaches you stuff. I got a lot of heartbreaks. I lost my job. I lost an apartment. I lost a lot of stuff. I gained a lot of stuff, but you know, the world has, and the universe has a way of balancing itself out. Those great times and those great feelings and those feelings of, you know, absolute bliss and shit are, you know, coupled in with, you know, homelessness and feeling like you don't know when your next meal is coming from and shit. So like those times taught me a lot, and Newport Richie was the setting for that to happen, and I'll never forget that as a result. You've
always been a big advocate for making albums as opposed to just compilations, is what you always say. Right. Like, when did that whole idea start with you? Like, what cemented in your mind as far as just, I want to make a story with this, I want to make an experience with this, because most people don't have that right off the jump on crafting an album? I think that comes very specifically from my influences. When I started back in 2010, you know, I got to listen to probably, and what I still feel today is, in the past decade, the best album of that decade, and that was My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy by Kanye West. Yeah. Obviously, I have, you know, Travis Scott, Kid Cudi influences, all that stuff, and those are like my gods. But I feel like album structure and stuff is something that I always loved from back in the day, from, you know, DMX's It's Dark and It's Hell and Hell is Hot, when he was, you know, giving concept albums and meaning behind songs that transitioned into other stuff. I felt like I just had a different story. Not even a different story. I had a story that a lot of other people experienced, but I wanted to
be able to tell it in its entirety. Putting together compilations, which there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that at all. It's just not how I wanted to tell the story, and I wanted to pay attention to detail. I wanted to sequence things correctly. I wanted to give concepts to the music beyond its primal listening, pleasure and stuff. Again, as a byproduct of me wanting to express myself, and to express myself fully. Because you're an artist as well. I mean, Jack's an artist. Everybody around us is artists. When you don't get to put out what you want to in its entirety, in the way that you want to do it, you almost don't want to put it out.
Yeah, and you start to feel some type of way.
Exactly.
It's almost kind of like that trapped feeling.
Right, that's when the doubt sets in, that's when all that happens. And to my, excuse me.
You ain't gonna throw that.
I've been very, very fortunate to have people around me who've been able to help me with that. Like, shout out to Lito.
Yes, huge shout out to
Lito has been working with me since the beginning. Like a lot of people, there's a lot of people along the lines that, help me be able to express that. And I think it's selfish and self-righteous in a lot of ways, but I mean, it's fulfilling and it gets the job done. That's why I kind of chose that path. I listened to my influences and I wanted to really tell a story. That's all. I wanted to tell my story in entirety.
When did you start getting the idea of the story for Grow? Like, when did that start? Because that was a project in the works when we met.
So Grow started to come as a result of, the untimely breakup between me and my fiance at the time. In the midst of all that, I was still feeling like I was on the brink of some kind of shell being shattered or some kind of life transition. Through that whole process, we ended up separating in the beginning of 2018. It was just a process it was a slow grow process. I call it the Avocado Tree album because you gotta let that shit develop and happen, and only after a few years are you gonna bear fruit. And you're finally gonna see the entirety of all the work and all that stuff that was put into. I was recording and adding stuff into it up to about 2 months before the album was released last year. So I was working on it essentially for about 3 years. I just wanted to show what the title says, growth. Like, I wanted y'all to see the end of one phase of myself transitioning all the way into another phase of it. And I think that album did it perfectly, more so than any other of the albums that I've
You crafted it together very well, and
appreciate it.
And it's also, a lot of artists kind of do the same thing in a sense, but not in the way that you do, where they sit on a project for a very long time, but they get very precious with a certain a little amount of tracks that they do have.
Sure.
With you, there's a different exception where you are not afraid to toss some things away.
Oh, no. Yeah, yeah. Thank you for touching on that. Grow was 17 songs, and I think we made almost 40 songs for it.
Yeah, you told me that it was a huge catalog to pick from.
Yeah, man. That was part of the process. That's part of the process of shedding shit and, using the stuff that's only useful, It's very, very tough. I'm sure as an artist, when you feel like you have something good, you have a good part of something, and you still can't use it or put it out in a way that suits you.
It's hard to not get married to that idea.
Right, and so but you also can't have 39 song albums. You just can't do that shit.
No one's gonna listen.
Nobody's
to that
gonna listen
thing.
to that. It's gonna be ridiculous. So it was a painstaking process, really picking and choosing what to go in. Because I mean, as comprehensive as Grow is, it's a 17 song, 73-minute, production. It very easily could have been a 2.5 hour production, and it could have I wouldn't have been mad at it as far as telling the story of it, but you got to be conscious of who's listening as well. And I feel like that balance between me wanting to tell a full story and still giving the listeners what they want is the first time that I've ever done that on a project. And I think that's why it's somewhat successful, or it's been doing pretty well lately.
I got to commend you for that in general, just because not a lot of artists have that talent to where they can throw away things that they've worked on for a period of time, because they know that it's just not in the cards.
Right.
You have that level of self-awareness that a lot of artists do not have, or a lot of people that do not have.
I appreciate that, and I mean, that's coming from you, and that's a lot with your help and your influence and stuff. One of the first projects we worked on was on Grow. It was the interlude track, I feel like, that we were working on. You were adding some vocals and stuff to it.
The first track you actually sent me over was Out of Sight, actually. And I didn't end up on Out of Sight.
Shout out to JPEG Jack.
Yes.
Out of Sight. That movie's coming soon.
Yes, working on a music video for that. Got JPEG Jack behind the camera. He was doing the music video for that, and that's how I met him, which is
Full circle. Full circle, right? Out of sight. Nowadays, like, I'm not missing. Like, if we're making a track, we're gonna use it. But it takes time to be able to get to that point, and I'm sure you're learning that as well, and everybody is, who's in an artistic point where you shoot and you record for that exact moment and for a specific purpose, not just to practice anymore. Like with the project me and you did, like,
that was basically music for the sake of making music.
It was music for the sake of
practice.
music, but it was professional practice.
Yeah.
You literally just went in there. You
We
put
had
a beat
fun.
on. We had fun. Wrote some shit. Got drunk. You know what I'm saying? Like, got high. At one point, decided that we want to put some shit out on a certain date, and they just did it. Like,
yeah, it just happened.
And you know, those organic, you know, creations and stuff. Those are the practices and the things that, you know, sustain you in between projects and stuff. Like,
yeah.
I'm still waiting on some shit from you, and I'm still gonna be on your ass until you put it out. So,
Jack's face just then.
art is the most judgmental profession / hobby that there is, in any way you want to put it, because you just get to put it on the plate, and everybody else has to do what they will with it. I'm very fortunate to be in that position, and with people around who, you know, share these same ideas and qualities.
What made you want to pick Out of Sight for a music video as opposed to, like, maybe, well, no, you already did Problem, but, like, could have done Slick, which has been a track that popped off super quick when you released that album? Or, like, what was your deciding factor when you're like, I'm going to shoot a music video, this is the track that I'm going to do it with?
Right, good question. Sentimental value, 100%.
Okay.
Out of Sight was actually the first song that I completed on the album. I completed that song about 3.5 years ago. I kept it on under wraps for a while, and then I mostly let people hear it when the album came out. But, you know, with help from JPEG Jack and, you know, my wonderful fiance and you know, a couple other people, we cultivated an actual storyboard behind the general meaning of what the track stands for, which is to, you know, keep bullshit out of sight. To kind of focus on what the things that make you happy, not to take that kind of love and everything for granted, because it can be taken away just like that. So, like, with that in mind, we came together with a great storyboard, and, you know, we just executed it. That song encompasses a lot of what the actual album is about. It takes a lot for a person to personally look past certain shit and actually know what's important, and it's part of growth. I like that I'm not in this music video a whole lot. I like that it's more so just an actual production.
That was something I didn't expect too. When you're like, hey,
you know
I'm filming today, and I came out and Psych was the main character.
Right. I'm not gonna say a whole lot about the actual.
I'm gonna leave it at that.
Right.
But,
video
like,
and stuff, but, like, it's an actual production, and it's not self-serving. It's a production that is meant to give a message and actually have you listen to more of the album. Yeah. And I think that's what it does, more so than just mobbing in front of it. We've all done that shit. Yeah. Look cool in front of the camera and all that shit. Yeah. I've never been that kind of person anyway, so, like, you know, why not put people in the position to be able to, you know, tell the story. That's kind of why I chose Out of Sight, and that's coming soon. I think y'all like that a lot. So
I'm excited for it. I'm for sure excited for it. One last thing before I let you go, because I got a last minute idea of doing a segment I'm gonna call Shots Fired. And I'm gonna just give you a bunch of rapid fire questions.
What the fuck is this?
Thank you, I appreciate
Should I tell you
you.
or not?
No.
Nah, surprise.
No. Thank you.
Don't even think about it. Just tell me whatever your answer might be. No
Let's
reason,
go.
no nothing.
Game show. Bernie Mac. Let's go.
We're gonna take this shot. I don't know what this is either, so.
Oh, go.
All right. TLC or Destiny's Child?
Destiny's Child.
Erykah Badu or Lauryn Hill?
Lauryn Hill.
Okay. Performing music or making music?
Performing music.
All right. I got Sonic the Hedgehog or Halo?
Oh. Halo.
Halo, okay. Dragon Ball or Dragon Ball Z?
Dragon Ball Super.
Oh, shit. All right, cool. And then last one, Problem or Out of Sight?
I'm a problem. They say math class, you can't solve them. Nah,
Kush
like,
got me higher than a mountain.
sheesh. Yes, baby. Nice questions.
Problem?
Okay.
Hell
Let's
yeah.
drink to that.
I don't have anything in here.
Oh,
I did mine.
Nothing against you, because this was dope. Thank you, JPEG Jack. Thank
Yes,
you. But
thank
that
you.
shot hurt my whole fucking soul.
You can find Albert J everywhere where music is played at Albert J Music 813
Yep.
on Instagram. Check them out when the collection goes live on Indie River. We'll make an announcement about that as soon as it happens on all of our social medias. Follow Indie River Official on Instagram, possibly? I forgot what it was.
It's there.
It's the first day.
It's right there. Keep
river.
your creativity flowing like a river. And if you don't grow,
And deliver.
thank you. Cut.